Welcome to episode 1 of Big Head Mode. Big Head Mode is going to be the sort of weekly roundup of news items that have gone on in the world of gaming. So, going forward, every Sunday there's going to be a Big Head Mode episode. So if you want to know what is going on in gaming, you know where to tune in. Now, without further ado, because we've got a lot to get through, let's dive right into the news. One of the biggest pieces of news that has happened recently was the massive shakeup that happened over at Xbox. Now, we've been talking about Xbox a lot in the news recently, especially the last year with, ups and downs of price increases on pretty much every single thing that they were doing, studio closures, weird presentations they put together, weird marketing campaigns that they had, and it's been a bit of a weird ride. Well, it got a little bit weirder because, Phil Spencer's gone. Phil Spencer announced that he was retiring from Xbox. Is it an actual retiring, or is it you have the option to retire or be made to leave? Who knows? All right, at the moment we're going to go with it's retiring. Phil's been with Xbox since 2001 and he was with Microsoft before that in 1988, so he's got a long tenure there, so he's probably got a really good package to retire on. But it's just weird to see him stepping down from the head of Microsoft Gaming, I should say. But what's even weirder is that Sarah Bond, who was kind of being prepped to be his replacement, has also left the company, but she's just straight up resigned. A lot of people thought that she was going to be the next Phil Spencer, so when Phil eventually did take his step out, Sarah Bond was going to step up and fill those shoes. Now, Sarah Bond was the Xbox president, but she was also in charge of, one of the brains behind the This Is an Xbox campaign, which you can't remember that, kind of told everyone they didn't need to own an Xbox console to play Xbox games, which in hindsight isn't the best thing when you're trying to sell consoles. But it's also come out that not everyone at Xbox was a massive fan of that campaign and of that strategy in general, and not everyone is sorry to see her go. But it's definitely weird looking from the outside in. Matt Booty is also getting a promotion. He is going from the head of Xbox Gaming to being Chief Content Officer, and also working very closely with the new CEO of Xbox Gaming, and that's Asha Sharma. Now, Asha Sharma has come over from being the former VP of Product and Engineering over at Meta. She was also working at Instacart and on the board of Home Depot as well. So not the normal sort of heritage, I guess you could say, that you'd expect someone coming into this position would have, but she has insisted that, she is going to be putting Xbox first, and she's got a lot of things that she wants to get sorted out for it. She's actually made 3 promises. Well, the first one is great games, and she's going to do that with unforgettable characters, memorable stories, and gameplay features that just kind of exude excellence. The next was the return of Xbox, which is, a lot of us are probably really glad to hear that that is going to be one of the priorities for the person who's going to be in charge of Xbox, because, it means a lot to a lot of people. I didn't grow up with Xboxes, but I know there's a lot of people out there that did, and a lot of people out there that loved what Xbox was and not love what it's become. So it's good to know that she's going to be leaning into that and trying to bring back that sort of prestige and those IPs that were there before that built the franchises up. The last one she talked about was a bit weird though, and that was the future of play, which is a really weird choice of words. She did go on to mention about how Xbox is now, it is everywhere. And because of that, they want to try and make it more sort of seamless for developers as well, to create a product and have it go out to a lot of places a lot more easily. So hopefully this means that Xbox Anywhere gets a bit more of a boost as well. She did use one of Satya Nadella's least favorite terms as well, and is that although she is coming from an AI background, she doesn't want to have any AI slop in these games or in any of this stuff. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes over, because that's kind of what the fans want to hear, and it kind of feels like a lot of fan service in that respect. So hopefully it isn't just saying what we want to hear, it is actual words that will be backed up with actions. It has also come to light that her gamer tag only got created in the middle of January. Not that I care. There's a lot of people out there that have a weird sort of parasocial relationship with these people that dive into all this side of it and really want to know all the ins and outs of their lives, but I don't really think you need to have that gaming sort of history there. You could be a good leader without knowing the ins and outs of everything, so long as you have a respect for the whole thing. So I really hope that she's been put in this position to guide it into the future the correct way. Because there are other rumors that it's being sunset, and I really hope that those aren't true. Another weird bit of news that happened, and this one is quite sad, and it is something that we've reported on before, not with this studio in general, but we have reported on this type of stuff before. But Bluepoint was closed down. Now, Bluepoint, for those who don't know, was a studio acquired by Sony back in 2001, and they were famous for a lot of things, but two of the big ones that stood out for me personally were Demon's Souls remake on PS5 and the Shadow Colossus remake on PS4. Two games which Bluepoint took and made incredible readaptations of them and remakes of them, and really showed what they can do with the talent that they have there. Unfortunately, since being acquired by Sony, they've not put anything out. They did get asked to put some work into God of War Ragnarok to help out with some stuff like a support studio there, but they were never actually given their own title to work with, and apparently everything that they pitched to Sony got turned down. Now, they were working on a God of War live service game, but we know that was closed down, and since then they've not had anything to work on. And if you're thinking, like, that's like 5 years almost of owning a studio, and they've not put anything out, I can kind of see why Sony would close that down, because it's a lot of money to keep going into a company which isn't doing anything, but also they do invest in these really weird choices as well. And having Bluepoint as a support studio would have been a brilliant thing, especially with how the industry is going at the moment, with people wanting more of these remade games. I mean, hell, Sony loves to remake games, especially like The Last of Us and Horizon, which don't need remakes at all. Give Bluepoint something to do and they could have done something incredible. It has also come out that they did pitch a few games, one being a spin-off to Ghost of Tsushima, which would have been interesting. I mean, Sucker Punch does Infamous, so it would have been nice to see them maybe pick up Infamous and work with that while Sucker Punch carried on doing more with like the Ghost of Yotei Legends stuff that they're working with now. But they also pitched Bloodborne. That's right, the game which all of us want to have remade for PS5. Hell, at this point now, we just want a 60 frames per second patch for it. But they got denied Bloodborne. But it wasn't by Sony. Apparently, Miyazaki himself had said that he didn't want anyone else to touch it, and Sony were just respecting his wishes. So I really hope that Miyazaki has got some plans for that franchise and for that title alone, because it's begging for a remake. There's money sitting on the table there. Bluepoint is unfortunately closing down. However, there have also been some talks recently with other companies looking to pick them up potentially and maybe just buy them out and maybe put them into another studio, maybe give them their own new studio, whatever it wants to be, because there's a lot of talent at that studio and it would be a shame to see it go to waste. But it hasn't all been doom and gloom. But I mean, I guess doom and gloom is kind of tied into this game, but Resident Evil 9 Requiem has released and it has come out to some incredible review scores. Now, it's currently sat on Metacritic floating between an 88 and a 92, depending on what platform you go for, but there's not one single negative critic review on there. The highest score comes from IGN France, giving it a 100. Conversely, the lowest score comes from IGN Italia, giving it a 70. I'm not sure what's going on over there. I'm not sure why there's separate scores for IGN. However, it's good to know that Capcom can put out a game which has been heralded as a masterpiece on multiple platforms, especially the Switch 2 version, which is just looking incredible. The fact that that is scoring so high and looks so good is just a really good sign of what is to come from that platform. But yeah, this game has come out to some amazing news and some amazing reviews, and it is really good to see them back on form with this. It's not to say that Village wasn't a good game, it's just that this is just nice to see that they haven't lost form, and it's just really good to see Capcom can still pump out a consistent horror game experience from the studio that kind of started off this whole craze with it. I probably will get lambasted for that in the comments because I'm probably missing out a lot of other franchises by talking about that like that. What I will say though is I won't be playing it. It looks scary as hell. Everything I've seen about that game scares the crap out of me. If you are brave enough to play it, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope Leon Kennedy is plucking at your heartstrings and you're having a great time with it. I've just got to interrupt this broadcast right now to let you know that I've been watching you and I know you've been seeing me and thinking, I wish I could be that cool. You see this Resident Evil 4 shirt and you just think, where can I get stuff that looks as good as that? Well, you'll be pleased to know that Final Boss have just got their newest release go up. So pre-orders are now live for their Speranza release, which is their Arc Raiders inspired drop. If you head over to the Final Boss website, the link is down in the description below. If you use the discount code that I'm putting on the bottom of the screen right now, you save yourself a little bit off the order as well. And you can pre-order yourself some incredible looking stuff. And you can look almost as good as me. There's also some leftover stuff on the website as well. So if you want to pick up some stuff which is already there, crack on and enjoy yourselves. Tell them Big Temp sent you. Maybe you one day will look this cool. We had the anniversary of Pokemon here with Pokemon Day this year, and we got a lot of news. Some very weird things were announced, one of which was the Pokemon, or Game Boy jukebox, I should say. And it's a small mini jukebox Game Boy with little cartridges that you put in the back of it that play songs from the Game Boy games. Why that exists, I don't know. But it's a very, very weird thing, very, very niche, and it's not something that I'll be rushing out to buy. There were then a whole host of things that were announced. I'm not gonna go into too much detail with it all because there's so much that was talked about here. You had things from the trading card game, the World Championships, Pokemon Go was getting some new stuff, Pokemon Sleep got an update, and I didn't even know people still had that or even used it. I've never heard anyone talk about it outside of these events. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is coming to the NSO GameCube collection, which is a really cool thing to have. I've never played that game, but I'm really going to try that out and see what it's like. Pokemon Legends EA is getting another small update, and I'm still not happy about that game's DLC, like the Mega Dimension stuff, getting announced before the game itself was actually released. But the biggest thing that actually got announced was Pokemon Gen 10. Pokemon Winds and Waves is coming out, but not this year. It is coming out in 2027. And it is coming out as a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, which means that if you haven't got a Switch 2, you will not be able to play it, which at this point, you should have expected that. There's a lot of people online saying that it's really bad that we're not putting it out on the Switch 1, but what did you expect? They're not going to release like these brand new titles on old platforms now, because the Switch 1 was old anyway, and why would you keep on pumping out titles for it, especially from Nintendo, who wants to sell more of the new platform? It looks a lot better than Scarlet and Violet did. The fact that they're giving it until 2027 to come out is a really interesting thing, because hopefully it means they're going to put a lot more polish into it and it's not going to come out in the state that Scarlet and Violet came out in. It still doesn't look as good as I think it could look, but at this point now, I've given up on expecting a Pokemon game to actually push the graphical boundaries of what games can actually be. Hopefully it's just a solid experience and one that goes along with that. It is also worth noting that before they announced Gen 10, they did announce Fire Red and Leaf Green, and they announced that other home integration was coming. They were leaked out earlier in the week, and I kind of think that they were meant to be announced properly here. All a very weird thing. I've got a lot of thoughts on them bringing those out for £16.99 each. I'm not going to go into that. Personally, I'm not going to be picking them up, but if you are reliving your childhood with that, then more power to you. And the last thing I want to talk about is something that Nintendo apparently forgot about, and that is the Legend of Zelda 40th anniversary, which happened on Feb 21st this year. They announced nothing for it. We saw no new games, no old games, no movie trailers, nothing. It's really upsetting to think that they have kind of pushed that franchise to the sidelines, given the fact that Breath of the Wild was the reason why a lot of people picked up a Switch in the first place. I get it, there's a lot of other things going on at this point in time, but it would have been really nice to see them acknowledge it. Because personally, without the Zelda games, I wouldn't be playing what I'm playing right now, and I wouldn't be as into it as I am, because Ocarina of Time for me was, and for a lot of people out there, I imagine, was an incredible game and like a turning point in our gaming history, I should say. But this month does mark the 10-year anniversary of the Twilight Princess HD remaster, so fingers crossed they remember that and bring it out. I don't know, at this point I'd be happy if you just put the GameCube version on NSO and called it a day. I just want to have that game on my console. I am going to be celebrating the Zelda 40th anniversary all year, and I am doing that by live streaming me playing all the Zelda games in release date order. I'm not going for timeline order because that just gets messy. So if you've already seen a couple of the live streams, then great. If you haven't, I'll be streaming them regularly on here and on Twitch, all under Big Tent Plays. So I'd love to have you come aboard and watch me be absolutely terrible at these games. I've almost finished Zelda 1. I've got like 1 or 2 dungeons left to go. So I'm not that bad. It's only taken me 6 hours, I think, so far to get there. And I looked on how long to beat, and it takes like 8.5 to finish the game. So I'm on track, all right? I'm doing okay. But yeah, that is all the news for this week with Big Head Mode. I thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you soon.